Today we're going to be discussing ordering and comparing rational numbers. So we're going to talk first about what ascending order means to order numbers from smallest number to the biggest, or from least to greatest, or in increasing order. The next one is descending. Descending order means to order numbers from the biggest down to the smallest number. So let's look and practice with a number line like we did with integers. So change everything to a decimal, line up your decimals, and check the correct order. So we need to put everything into decimal form, which we know how to do from our last 2 days. So we have 0.3. That's already a decimal. I'm going to rewrite it up here. 0.3. 1.2. 75%. The percent sign needs to go away, and I need to go away from being a percent sign, so it goes 1, 2, so I have 0.75. This decimal is just going to stay 0.15. This is a percent. Remember the decimal point's in the back because it's not in the number. 1, 2. So it becomes 1.25 as a decimal. And then I have 4/10. I need to turn it into a decimal, so top dog in the house. 10 can't go into 4. 10 goes into 40 4 times. So this last one is 0.4. Now, the most important part when you are ordering decimals is to make them all the same length. So you need to make the place value of the numbers the same length as what you're given. So the longest place value that we have is out to the hundredths place. So we are going to make all of our decimals out to the hundredths place, and I'm going to start with the ones on the number line. So we have 25, and I'm going to add a 0 here to make this 50, 75, a whole 1, 1.25, 1.50, 1.75, and then 2.00. Do the same thing up here. So this becomes 0.30, 1.20, 175, or I'm sorry, 0.75, 0.15, 1.25, 0.40, 40. Now that makes it a little bit easier when we're putting it on the number line. So where would 30 go? 0.30. 0.30 would go somewhere in here between 25 and 50. So 0.30 goes here. If you want to put 30, you can. Probably better if we put just plain 3, though, because that's what we were given. 1.20 or 1.2 is going to fall right in here somewhere. 1.2, because it has to go between 1 and 1.25. So I did those two. 0.75. Well, there's a spot right there for it. Its original form was 75%, so I'm going to use 75% since I have to always go back to original form. 0.15 was just 0.15. Where would 15 go on this number line? 0.15 would go somewhere down here. 1.25. Well, there's actually a spot on this number line right there. But remember, it was 125%, so put it back in its original form. And then 0.40, where would 40 go? Probably about here somewhere. And that was really 4/10. So you can always use a number line to help you, just like we used integers, to place all the numbers on the correct order. So it says order the numbers in ascending order. Remember, ascending order starts with A, so it goes up into the air. So it has to go from least to greatest. Turn everything to decimals. Turn to decimals. So percent, decimal point is here. Go away from being a percent. So that makes this, I'm going to rewrite it over here, 38% is really 0.38. 8/12. We need to turn that to a decimal, so we're going to do some long division. Top dog in the house. 12 can't go into 8, so I add a 0. 12 can go into 80 6 times, which would be 72. Subtract, and I get 8 again. Bring down a 0. I get 80. Goes in 6 times. 72. Remainder 8. Bring down a 0. I'm starting to see a pattern here. 6. So automatically I can say it is repeating 6. So 0.6, and I'm going to go 6, 6, repeating. And the last one is really just 0.41 because it's not going to change. It's already a decimal. Remember what we talked about before. You need to make them all the same length. So this is repeating 6 the whole way out to 3 places. So I'm going to fill this one with a 0 because there's nothing repeating, and this one with a 0 because there's nothing repeating. Least to greatest order. So the smallest is going to go first. If we look at this, is 380, 666, or 410 going to go first? Well, the least one is this one. The second least one is this one, and the third least one is that one. That's actually the greatest. So make sure you put them back in their original form. So we have 38%, 0.41, and then we have 8/12. Now I know for some of you it's a little bit difficult to put them back into their original form. So if above that, before you write them in their original form, if you want to write what they were over with your decimal, you're welcome to do that. But just make sure you circle your final answer with the original forms in the answer. Okay, so you try, put those in descending order, and descending order starts with D, so it's going to go down. Turn everything into decimals, and then put them in descending order. So if we do our work over here, 3/4. 3/4 is a fraction I have memorized. I know that's 0.75. If you don't know it, you can do the long division, but 3/4 is an easy one to memorize. 70%, you need to find the decimal, move it 2 away, so it becomes 0.70. And then 0.72 is just going to stay the same. They're already all the same length. I'm going to go to descending order, which is greatest to least. The greatest is this one, then 72, and then 70. If you need to, write it in decimal form first, then put it back into original form. And circle your original form answer. Okay, you try the last one on your own. Okay, remember we're putting them in ascending order. We're going up into the air because we start with an A. So that's from least to greatest. Turn everything into decimals. So 1/8, top dog in the house. 8 goes into 1, it doesn't. Goes into 10, I'm sorry, not twice. Once, which is 8. Subtract, I get 2. Bring down a 0. Goes into that 2 times, which is 16. Subtract, I get 4. Bring down my last 0, and that's 5 for 40. So this fraction is 0.125. 20% is really, if I move the decimal away from the percent sign 2, is 0.20. And then the last one is 0.052. These are all 3 decimal places long, so I'm going to add a 0 there. And I want ascending, which is least to greatest. So is it 125, 200, or 52? Well, that 52 is the smallest. Oops, not 3. That's the smallest, and then the next one is there, and then the last one is there, which is greatest. If you need to, write it back in the form that we were using in decimals so that you don't make a mistake. And if you don't need to do this step, then that's fine. But always make sure you put it back into the original form. And circle your final answer. All right, so let's look at our next page. So the greater than symbol goes this way, and actually if you make like a little loop around it with the dots, it actually kind of looks like a G. Oh, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. Rewind. Greater than goes this way. That's why it didn't look like a G. There you go. So now it looks like a G. And then the less than symbol goes this way, and it looks like a little L for less. And equal to is obviously an equal sign. So let's practice with our comparing. So anytime we're comparing numbers, we have to turn them into decimals. So 12.5 is already a decimal. This is not, though. So decimal point here, move it to 1.25. Which one is greater? Well, 12.5 is greater than 1.25. You always can read from the front, or you can remember that the pointed side is the less side, the open side is the greater side. So let's look at example number 1. 7.75 is already a decimal. 7 point, now I know in my head that 3/4 is 75, but if you don't know that, top dog in the house, the 4 doesn't go in, 4 goes into 30 7 times, which is 28, 2 left over, and then I have a 5. That's where the 75 comes from. And those turn out to be equal to each other. The next one, 0.31, is already a decimal. 8/25 is not, so I need to do some long division. 25 does not go into 8, but it goes into 80 3 times, which would be 75. Bring down the 5, bring down a 0. 25 goes into 50 2 times. And so you get 0.32. 0.31 is less than 0.32. All right, and then the last one, 1/3 and 30%. Well, 1/3 is not a decimal, so I need to make it a decimal. Top dog in the house. 3 doesn't go into 1. 3 goes into 10 3 times, which is 9. Get 1 left over. Bring down a 0. 3 goes into 10 3 times. Uh-oh, I'm starting to see a pattern here. 1 left over. Bring down my 0. There's my last 3. I'm still left with a remainder of 1, so it's repeating 3. So this is 0.333 repeating. 30%, change it from percent to a decimal, so it becomes 0.30. And you can make them the same length. You can add in a 0. This is 333, this is 300, so 333 is greater than 300. So what I would like for you to do is I want you to do the independent practice problems, and when you're ready, unpause the video and we will check your work. Okay, and here are your answers for 4 through 8. 4 through 8 should have not been too tricky for you. Number 8 may have tripped you up a little bit. What I would do for this one is, if you see, I added in the little pink zeros to make them all out to the thousandths place. So make them all out to the thousandths place, and then you can see this is 15 versus 500. Well, which numbers fall between 15 and 500? 29 would, 30 would, and 490 would. So that's why the rest of those are not answer choices.